Yo, what is up guys? Welcome to another video. This is actually a very highly requested video, so I'm excited to make it. We're gonna be talking about astral projection / lucid dreaming, my experience with it, and some tips and tricks on how you guys can do it tonight, possibly. This is part 1 of part 2. Part 2 will actually be on Patreon. I'll be talking about some not family-friendly things. There's some potential in lucid dreaming that is not family-friendly at all. I'll be actually reading some of the not family-friendly dreams out of my dream journal on Patreon, so link is in the description below. But yeah, so what is lucid dreaming? A lot of misconceptions about lucid dreaming. Some people think, oh, you have superpowers, you can move mountains, you can basically play God within a dream, there are no rules, you can do anything you want, so it's so fun. No, that's not what lucid dreaming is. Lucid dreaming is just realizing that you were in a dream. The dream still might have rules, okay? It might be very similar to reality, but basically you realize that you were in the dream world and not the real world, not this world right here, okay? So that's what lucid dreaming is. So why is this cool? Well, first of all, it's fun. It's like complete freedom, okay? You are living essentially like a pretty real experience, but there are no consequences, right, outside of the dream world. And a lot of times, dreams are, cooler and do weirder stuff than reality. So it's fun, number 1. Number 2, you can actually practice skills in a lucid dream. In a lucid dream, you're making real neural connections. Okay, so you can actually get better at piano, say, by practicing piano in a dream. Not saying it's the exact same, okay? A lot of times dreams are less solid and the piano might have different rules, so you might be getting slightly less feedback, but it's not insignificant, okay? So yeah, you can actually practice skills in lucid dreams that carry over to real life. Also, probably the most important reason, the reason that I really got into lucid dreaming and see it more as a practice now than just some cool phenomenon that randomly happens, is for the potential for it to give you insights into awakening or enlightenment. If you guys don't know what awakening or enlightenment is, I would watch some of my other videos. But, monks, they do this thing called dream yoga, which is essentially meditating in their dreams. And it is rumored to be 10, some people say 100 times more effective. And so I was like, yo, I gotta try this out. Didn't really understand why at first, now I do. Essentially, it makes the boundary between dreaming and reality go away. You see the dreamlike nature of reality. You kind of see everything as a dream. And no, I'm not saying that you won't be able to distinguish between whether you're dreaming or not. In fact, you become more conscious of that, okay? But the dreamlike nature of reality is much more apparent, okay? You realize that subjective reality is really no different than dreaming. And you might say, oh, Connor, well, yeah, I get that. Everything kind of happens in the brain. I can see like this is kind of all happening in my mind. Well, no, it's a deeper experiential level, okay? If the dreamlike nature of reality doesn't give you some profound insight like, whoa, like, oh my gosh, and completely change your perspective on reality. If it's not some aha moment, well, you haven't really got it. Keep digging deeper. But it has the potential to do that. So that's pretty cool. So yeah, that's why lucid dreaming is so awesome. Now, how do you do it? Okay, well, first of all, there are 2 different types of lucid dreams. There's a waking-induced lucid dream, which is also called astral projection. Some people will argue that they're different. For all intents and purposes, we're gonna say that they're the same thing because how you go about actually making it happen is the exact same. So waking-induced lucid dreaming is essentially you're watching yourself fall asleep, okay? A lot of people don't even understand that this is possible, but instead of going from awake to being in a dream, like an on-off switch, right? You're awake or you're sleeping, it's like a dimmer, okay? So you actually watch yourself slowly go into the dream world, and this requires a lot of awareness and mindfulness, okay? So this is where meditation really comes into play. This is one key, is that you really need to be meditating and be into the whole mindfulness practice beforehand, or this is gonna be very challenging. But that's the first type. We'll get into how to do that. The second type is your regular kind of sleep-induced lucid dream, I guess you would call it, where all of a sudden you find yourself in a dream. You might be going through the dream a little bit, and some point during the dream, you're like, oh shit, I'm dreaming, okay? And The practices to accomplish both of these go hand in hand. In fact, you should be trying to accomplish both each night, okay? So yeah, let's tell you guys my tips and tricks on exactly how to make these things happen, okay? So let's just start out with the sleep-induced lucid dream, because this is usually the type of lucid dream that people have had, okay? In the grand scheme of life, it's more likely for you to have spontaneously had this, right? The astral projection / waking-induced lucid dream, that requires really a really specific intention and some effort, okay? The sleeping-induced lucid dream you might have just had, okay? Just all of a sudden you're in a dream and you realize that you're dreaming, okay? So the key here is before you go to bed, you really want to have your mind preoccupied with the concept of dreaming. So then when you're in the dream, your brain, right, under the surface level appearance of the dream is focused on dreaming itself, and so then you realize that it's a dream. Does that make sense? So the number one thing that you can do is keep a dream journal, okay? So every time that you wake up and you experience a dream, you write it down. It doesn't have to be in too much detail, but you want to go back and fill in as much detail as possible. This is going to get your dream recall skill higher. And the higher your dream recall skill is, the higher probability that you're going to be in a dream and realize it's a dream, okay? So you want to keep a dream journal. And what I like to do, I like to read the past few entries of this dream journal every night right before I go to bed. So that's getting my mind focused on dreams. Also, okay, to get my mind focused on dreams even more, I meditate while I fall asleep, okay? And this is actually super important for the waking-induced lucid dream, but it's important for both. So I meditate while I fall asleep, but it's not just normal meditation where normally, you know, most people focus on the breath. You can focus on the breath as well, but you want to focus on a phrase that relates to dreaming, okay? So for me, on the in-breath, I go, I am. On the out-breath, I go, dreaming. So I am dreaming, I am dreaming. And I'm not saying this out loud. I'm thinking this in my head as I'm breathing, as I'm falling asleep. So I am dreaming, I am dreaming, I am dreaming. And that's getting the idea of dreaming on your mind. Okay, so then when you fall asleep, underneath the surface, there's gonna be some kind of recollection of the notion of dreaming, and you're gonna realize that you're dreaming, okay? Also, you can do things like throughout the day, just question, am I dreaming right now? Am I dreaming right now? Get used to doing that all the time, okay? You can do things like a lot of people will say, oh, pick a certain scenario, or maybe when you see a certain object and then ask yourself if you're dreaming. So people will be like, oh, every time I see a blue car, I'm gonna ask myself if I'm dreaming. The problem is if you don't see that blue car in the dream, it's not gonna work. All right, that's the problem. That's the limit to that method, okay? But yeah, so that's how you do it. And this is the thing, mindfulness and meditation is so important. They've done studies and shown the connection between mindfulness, meditation, and lucid dreaming. The more mindful you are throughout the day, the more mindful you're gonna be in a dream, and you're gonna realize that it's a dream. Okay, so get into meditation, get into mindfulness. Okay, so let's talk about waking-induced lucid dreaming, because this is kind of the more esoteric kind. People don't even believe this exists. But trust me, 100% this does exist. It's a thing. You can do it. There's not anything magical about it. I mean, it feels magical, but it doesn't go against science or anything like that. So it's called a waking-induced lucid dream, or we can call it astral projection. Well, why do they call it astral projection? Because you're actually waking up in your room, like where you went to sleep, okay? So you're actually watching yourself fall asleep and then kind of waking up in the room in which you fell asleep in. And it's gonna be looking a little different, but it just seems like kind of an alternate reality of the world in which you fell asleep. So that's why they call it astral projection. It seems like it's like the astral realm, okay? So essentially how you do this is, again, read your dream journal, meditate. The meditation is really important because the key is to become aware or stay aware as you are falling asleep. So your body falls asleep, but your mind stays alert and aware. People think that this is impossible. They're like, you have to be either asleep or you're not. Well, no, you can kind of be in limbo in between. Instead of an on-off switch, right? Awake, asleep, it's a dimmer, okay? You actually watch the sleeping process. And yeah, this is incredible. People don't realize that this is possible, but it is, okay? So you wanna meditate while you're falling asleep. Again, I am dreaming, I am dreaming, I am dreaming. This is gonna keep you mindful. This is gonna keep your mind aware. And you wanna start to relax your body as much as possible. Really relax your body. You'll find that you'll really be able to relax your body on the out breath. So each out breath, really, really relax. Really feel the energy in your body, okay? So try and keep doing that, and you should be able to feel your body more and more and more as you relax. Try and relax every muscle as hard as you can. If you really put some effort into trying relaxing as much as possible, your body, as you're falling asleep, but staying aware of it, you'll notice that your body will start going into sleep paralysis. Now, this is something that happens when you go to sleep every single night. Your body has to put itself in sleep paralysis, or else you will act out your dreams, okay? So you actually go into sleep paralysis every single night, you just don't realize it. And a lot of people associate sleep paralysis with something negative. Well, it's not. In fact, it's mandatory if you're going to astral project or do a waking-induced lucid dream. So you need to watch yourself and realize that your body is becoming paralyzed, okay? And embrace this. This scares a lot of people, and a lot of people, it'll scare them so much that boom, now all of a sudden they have a lot of energy, they're awake, they're alert, and they can't fall asleep, okay? And they can't do this because they're afraid. Embrace it. Nothing bad is gonna happen, okay? Remember, you're dreaming, nothing bad can happen. And just allow your body to relax so fully that it goes into sleep paralysis, but stay awake. The key is, the hardest part is really staying alert and awake while this happens. You need to set a very firm intention, like I am going to meditate, I'm going to stay aware as I'm falling asleep. Okay, you really, I mean, this does require effort. It's kind of a paradox because you need to be putting in a lot of effort yet relaxing so hard at the same time, and this is why it's tough. But all of a sudden, you'll find yourself going into sleep paralysis, and you'll find yourself in kind of a place between, you'll feel your body paralyzed, and you'll be in kind of a limbo between, okay, you're not all the way asleep because you're aware, but you're definitely not in some wakeful state. It's kind of a limbo in between, and you'll kind of recognize that state and recognize that your body is paralyzed, okay? And then when you recognize this, use your mind to visually stand up. A lot of people, they have different ways to do this. You can visualize yourself pulling a rope, right? So it's essentially you're trying to get your dream body out of your real body. And again, this is part of the dream. It's happening in your mind. This isn't some science fiction or woo-woo thing, okay? You're really just imagining yourself standing up out of your body. And what that does is, boom, it throws you into a lucid dream. Because remember, you're conscious of that the whole time. And then remember, dreams happen in your mind. So you're imagining yourself standing up, and all of a sudden, boom, that image actually turns into a dream. And boom, now you're standing up in your room, okay? And usually, I mean, it's a different version of your room, and that's why people think it's kind of like the astral realm, right? But it's your room, and then you can go explore and do whatever, but yeah. And then you're in a lucid dream because you're aware of the whole process. So yeah, that's a waking-induced lucid dream. Now, some tips and tricks. Ideally, you want to fall asleep on your right side. Really, really ideally. So the Buddha, a lot of different spiritual practitioners actually recommend that you sleep, and also they say you should die on your right side, okay? So on your right side, legs slightly bent, and a lot of people say to actually cover your right nostril. And what this does is essentially it blocks off this certain channel going down the right side of your body, which apparently makes you more awake or conscious while you're sleeping. Is that true? In my experience, I usually have waking-induced lucid dreams while I'm on my right side. So I think there's something to it. But again, you have to be able to fall asleep. If you simply can't fall asleep on your right side, like that is a mandatory part of waking-induced lucid dreaming, is you have to be able to fall asleep. But stay aware as well. So that's a tip. If anything, fall asleep on your right side. Meditate as much as you can beforehand. Okay, the more aware and the more mindful you are, the higher chance that you're going to be able to keep your mindfulness through the little limbo phase of sleeping. Also, most commonly, it's easiest to do it in the morning. Okay, after not quite a full night's rest. So maybe 6 hours of sleep or something like that. Because that's when REM sleep is the most intense. Okay, dreams happen during REM sleep, and that's usually when I have most of my waking induced lucid dreams. Is actually I'll wake up maybe 4 or 5 in the morning, and that's a great time to try and do it right then and there, because REM sleep is really high. It's really hard to do it when you're first going to bed. Very challenging. Also because your mind is tired. You know what I mean? It's actually hard to stay mindful. But 6 hours go by, REM sleep is high, and your mind is kind of rested. So it's much easier to do it in the morning. Now, so cool. You're in a lucid dream. Now, what do you do when you're in a lucid dream? And I'm not talking about like, you know, do you fly? Well, you'll find that the dream just kind of happens. If you really are conscious of it, you don't necessarily have a lot of control unless you've done practices like dream yoga or something like that. So at the start, it's not going to be very controllable. But what you can control right out of the gate is how solid the dream is. Not completely control, but you can have some control over it. Okay, so there are methods to make the dream more solid, because the one thing really that makes dreams not as good as reality is they seem kind of they seem too fluid and spacious, and they change too much, right? And so it doesn't really seem solid. It doesn't seem real. Okay, well, you can make it more real by, again, being mindful. This is where meditation, mindfulness comes into play so much. You want to be mindful and in the present moment while you dream. Remember, you can think of the dream as like a thought. It's happening in your mind. That's essentially what it is. Now, if you start to daydream and start to get lost in a thought while you're dreaming, well, that's changing the dream. Does that make sense? So what you don't want to do is, say like during the day. You know how sometimes during the day, you'll kind of go off in a daydream and be like, whoa, I didn't even realize that I was thinking. You know, that is the state that you want to avoid in a dream. So you can think, but it has to be mindful, and you have to be in the present moment. So tips and tricks, I like to open my eyes as wide as possible. Really open my eyes and really focus on my visual field while I'm dreaming. I try and point out the detail of every single thing in the dream. You'll notice that when you really start focusing on the details will actually start to become, well, more detailed, start to become more solid and more real. Also, you can focus on your breathing. This just keeps you in the present moment, okay? So that's the key. And a lot of people, they'll start to panic because they realize they're in a lucid dream. It's so cool, but then they see it starts to slowly slip away. And obviously it has to slip away eventually, but then that gets people thinking, they start panicking, and it slips away prematurely. So to keep it solid, you really want to stay in the present moment. So again, initiating the dream and keeping it going, it really all has to do with your awareness training, mindfulness and meditation, okay? So yeah, that's lucid dreaming in a nutshell. That's how I do it. Again, it takes practice. Don't expect to do it on your first time, although you might be able to. It really takes some intention. But again, I just think of this as an extension of my mindfulness and meditation practice, because you can see how intensive a practice it is, not only inducing it, but then also during it, okay? And it can lead to some pretty profound insights about the nature of reality itself. You'll find that the nature of reality itself is not much different from a dream at all. In fact, some people would say it's absolutely indistinguishable, that there is only subjective reality, that there is no objective reality at all, just like a dream. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed that video. I hope you go and astral project tonight, have some fun. I'll see you in the next video. Part 2 on Patreon if you want to see it. Peace.